In the Book of Ebon are scrawled the rights to open the 7 doors of podcasting, beyond which you'll find the world's most infernal podcast, The Pod People. I'm Matisse Van Rossum, and in my cellar, what you know about bubbling, musty bones coming out my walls.
I'm Ben Sheets, but you can call me Dickie the Dirty Dog.
Word. Okay, hi. I'm Cleveland Mosier, and today I'm beyond 2 moles. I have a mole problem.
What kind of mole? Like the kind that dig around in your yard?
So it's both, actually. They're moles with moles.
But there's 2 of them. Mm-hmm. Or no, you're beyond 2 of them. So there's more than 2.
Yeah, it's more of an experience, really, a mole experience. So yeah.
That's perfect, because the movie we're talking about this week is also an experience.
It is. And it's not a David Cage game either. It's
No, but I would say that the logic sometimes borders on David Cage.
Yes.
Wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, so this week we are going to be talking about a Patreon pick. This film is brought to us by our honorary pod boy, Sarah Morris.
Thank you, Sarah.
We thank you for this pick.
Shout out to Sarah.
Shout out to Sarah. And Sarah has chosen a special film for us to talk about this week. We are talking about the 1981 Italian horror film, The Beyond, directed by Lucio Fulci.
Not to be confused with From Beyond, starring Jeffrey Combs.
Correct.
Which is a bop. See our episode on
As we said
From
at the
Beyond.
end of last week's episode, yes, this is not From Beyond. This is The Beyond. That's its American title, at least. And it is a grindhouse giallo zombie horror flick about a woman who inherits a old hotel in the Louisiana backcountry, and that hotel just so happens to be placed upon one of the 7 gates to hell. And that is pretty much the extent of the story in this movie. Lady has a hotel, it has a gate to hell in the basement. That's the movie. I think this is technically our second giallo film on the podcast. It's kind of an underrepresented genre on the show. We have talked about the original Suspiria by Dario Argento, but this is our first Fulci flick, who is sort of the Italian George Romero.
I don't know, he sounds kind of Fulci of himself.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah, I mean, in addition to this, which I should say, this movie is technically like the first in a spiritual trilogy with City of the Living Dead, and there's one other, can't remember the name right now, but Fulci also did Zombie 2.
Yes.
Which internationally was the sequel to Dawn of the Dead.
The unofficial sequel, yes, of course. This is also as I mentioned, a grindhouse film. It was nice to get the little grindhouse music at the beginning of the movie.
Can we rewind a second? This is my first time hearing about this Zombie 2. I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
First off, okay, so sometimes like releases, like internationally, like have their names changed. Mm-hmm. Is it that situation, or is it called Zombie 2 because he didn't have the rights to Dawn of the Dead but still wanted to make a sequel of it?
That
so there
one.
is no... That's amazing.
It's actually both, because internationally Dawn of the Dead released as Zombie.
Yes, that's true. And also, internationally, Zombie 2 was released as just Zombie.
Yeah.
So in the States, it's also Zombie 2. That's amazing.
In the States, Fulci's Zombie 2 is just Zombie.
Oh, fuck,
But
that's even more confusing.
Yeah, but the Italian title is Zombie 2 because Dawn of the Dead was released internationally as Zombie, so Fulci made a sequel to his own sequel to Dawn of the Dead called Zombie 2.
Dude. Could you imagine getting that past like a marketing team in this day and age?
No.
Like, yo, I love this movie so much. We don't have the rights to it that I just want to give my name a different title, but also still a sequel. So it's like, look, I love Pixar's Up so much. I want to do like a sequel to it, with like legally distinct characters, but it is a sequel to that world in that movie, right? So can we call it like
Flying House?
Flying House 2? There's no Flying House 1. I just want to call it Flying House 2. That's amazing. What a gift. Wow.
Truly special.
It is
What made my day, honestly. That is hilarious.
It is a self-suck horror Ouroboros. A horror Boris.
A horror Boris. Damn.
But anyway, we are not talking about Zombie 2 on this episode. We are talking about the other film that Fulci is most famous for.
Let me just write down horror Boris in our sponsor shelf book of phrases for later. That's gonna be really nice.
Cleveland, this was your first time with Fulci and, as I understand, with giallo in general, and also with The Beyond. Is that right?
No, I've seen other giallo films, I'm sure, at some point. I am notoriously baby, it's true. Not to be confused with not so hit rapper and artist these days, DaBaby. Yeah, Boo. But I'm sure it's somewhere like down the line. I've seen another giallo film. I have not seen the original Suspiria yet. I've only seen the remake at this time of recording. Though I need to change that like immediately, frankly. And I don't know if I've seen any of his other works. But there's got to be like a few films I've seen that are like tangentially giallo. Like, is this our first giallo film on the podcast?
Yes.
Would you say? Like,
Our second after the original Suspiria,
which I wasn't here
technically.
for, yeah.
So our first with you here in terms of giallo as a genre. The other big names other than Fulci are, of course, Argento, Mario Bava. I mean, there's a shitload of them. They're made for very low budget and have a distinct kind of Italian charm to them. But regardless of whether you've seen others or not...
I've only seen other movies that have got Goblin doing the score. I know that.
Well, Goblin did
a lot of scores.
Yeah,
but outside
American
of
stuff,
yeah.
too, yeah.
Anyway, how did The Beyond strike you, Cleveland? Is it what you were expecting going in?
I wasn't expecting anything, so I was pleasantly pleased. The film sets you up for what it's going to be very early on. Like, even if you're not necessarily like deeply familiar with the genre, which I'm not. I might have seen one before, isn't really a huge claim. Even still, I know what I'm in for because I have seen a good number of spaghetti westerns, which is essentially the same, just, outside of genre.
Same time period. Basically, yeah,
like tangential production.
They have a lot in common. There's a lot of the same hallmarks of Italian filmmaking, such as not recording live sound, and everything being ADR'd and Foleyed, which, man, the Italians sure did love to do.
I love that they did it. It really these films are already like spaghetti westerns and giallo are such cartoons already that by dubbing over the voices, it just further emphasizes like the cartoon element because so often cartoons might not sync up properly with the lips and whatnot.
Yeah.
So
also, it's able to give them a larger international appeal as well because oftentimes the cast are not native English speakers.
Some are.
But in Fulci and Argento films, there are lots of Italian actors, and they pull a lot of Eastern European actors as well. So maybe not native English speakers, not able to speak without an accent. So they approximate their English lines on set, and then in post you bring an American on or something to dub over their lines, so you can distribute these movies abroad.
Yeah, which rules. Is it necessarily quote quality? No, it's great.
No, it's not quality.
But don't change a thing. I love it. So in several previous podcast episodes, like the Forever Purge, most recently, and others, I've mentioned that I am just craving. I am foaming at the mouth for a cowboy horror movie. I need it in my life. Please hit us up on Twitter or something if you have any in mind.
Bone Tomahawk.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Bone Tomahawk, but we might have to watch it to satisfy your hunger.
Yeah, and maybe not even for the podcast, but it's so strange to me that it's not a much, much larger genre for a couple of reasons. Especially now after watching this film, which has the scoring has a lot of Western motifs in it. And again, it's also set in Louisiana, so
Yeah.
you know it's very southern as well. So it already like is starting to bring up that sort of imagery. And I feel like when you have so many giallo films and Western films at the same time, like where are the crossovers? Like where do these films not exist? Like by all accounts, I feel like just a couple should.
No good ones.
Yeah,
I mean, we've seen The Pale Door.
Yeah, man. But I mean, like it just like from this era.
Yeah.
I mean, there's certainly violent and nihilistic and bloody as hell westerns from the time period.
But
out there.
like a supernatural cowboy movie.
Yeah, the crossover between Western and supernatural is a strangely untapped well. I agree with you.
It doesn't make sense to me because sorry, but I want to get this shtick out of the way. Like, it doesn't.
This movie is not a Western.
No, it's not. But like, it's sorry. This is just so like deep. Like, it's just like this brain worm that I have right now. Culturally, for cowboys, it makes sense. You know, like you've got like ghost riders in the sky. These ideas of like hauntings in the desert. Like it.
I guess from dusk till dawn is another one.
Yeah, From Dusk Till Dawn is one, and unfortunately, like Marvel's Ghost Rider, like is another one, kind of. But
barely.
Yeah, again, barely. Yeah. But it like you've got just like werewolf cowboys. You could do again like vampire cowboys, kind of. Like it's still like kind of gothic vampires. You know, there's a little bit of shooting in From Dusk Till Dawn.
We need to get you on the Near Dark train because that's a
great one.
That's probably the closest thing to what you're asking for, and it's a genuinely fantastic film.
Ravenous too, we covered on the podcast, and that's a horror western
Ravenous
in a lot
is
of ways.
If you haven't seen Ravenous, Cleve, it's a Wendigo story set in like post Civil War on like the frontier.
Yo, yes, that's exactly what I'm asking for.
Maybe pre-Civil War. It's
That's
good.
exactly what I want.
It's good. It's kind of a horror comedy, but it's good. It's good. Yeah.
That's okay. Like, yeah, if it's quality, like,
It is quality.
hell, I saw our Pale Door episode.
Ravenous on the podcast as well before you were a regular host.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I actually I don't even need quality at this point. I just want like cowboy hats and edginess. Like it's just But no, it is true, or at least like some kind of paranatural like force in the film. I don't care what it is. It can be anything, undead, you name it. I don't mind. I almost want to like sit down and like write a fucking script or something.
If you want a more recent sort of acid western horror, I would really recommend the movie Let the Corpses Tan. I watched it a few months back, and it's an Italian crime movie gone wrong, and it very much has giallo and acid western vibes to it. It's very strange, very slow, very weird, but you would probably like it.
We should probably start talking about The Beyond, though.
It's
like
time.
15 minutes into this episode.
It's time.
We
I just
barely
that
talked
was
about the actual.
That was my
movie.
bet. It's just like I need it. There'll be an opportunity to bring it up again. I just more like cowboy horror, please, and not violent cowboy movies, like paranormal cowboy films. All right, let's talk about From the Beyond. What did I think of it? I loved it. I thought it was great. It's campy, and it's very consistent in the pacing. It is fairly constant. Hilarious gore effects, nonstop, good kills, and again, like when it's funny, I mean, it's fairly consistently like funny bad. Also, I really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, and for me, like, it's less of a narrative and more of a practical effects showcase.
Absolutely.
Like, I think a lot of the practical effects are really stunning in this. I love how much Fulci loves to destroy eyeballs. There's so many times when just eyeballs get wrecked in this.
There's a lot of eye trauma in this one, and his other stuff too. Fulci hates an eyeball. My man hated to see, apparently. I agree with you. Like, narrative on this is super bare bones. Like we mentioned the main premise. This woman inherits an old hotel. It's on top of one of the 7 gates to hell. There was like an old painter who opened one of the gates in the past, and like the townspeople killed him and like buried him under the hotel. There's a mysterious blind woman who's trying to warn our protagonist Liza, like, leave the hotel, like, don't fuck around with this. It's evil. And then there's a doctor who serves as the love interest, kind of, but doesn't really do anything. He's pretty useless, but loves to act like he's not.
He definitely knows how to load a gun, most importantly.
We'll get to that.
yeah.
Don't think I've forgotten. We'll get to that.
The biggest footnote.
We'll get to that. We can't blow our load that early.
No.
That's the best part of the movie.
There's not much of a story to speak of. The gate to hell opens below the hotel. There's some zombies and a bunch of people die. As you mentioned, it's kind of a practical effects showcase.
Yeah.
There's a pretty steady pace of kills about every between 5 to 10 minutes. We've got another kill set piece, and they all follow kind of the same formula. Like, they're all very different, but it's something supernatural comes for a person very slowly, and they stand there or lie there and allow themselves to be murdered. I don't think there's anybody in this entire movie who had to die. If they had just, in some cases, at a normal walking pace, just left the room, they would have survived. But that's not what it's about. It's not what it's about. It's about let's use our very minimal budget to, in a spectacular way, show people's bodies being absolutely destroyed.
Yeah, really creative stuff. And, you know, the slowness of it is very funny. It reminds me of, like, A Fish Called Wanda, where one of the characters is being run over by a cement roller, and it's slowly moving his way towards him, and he's screaming the whole time while just laying there. But, like, more importantly, all of the kills are super creative. I think about the one, for example, at the morgue.
Yes.
Which is probably the most preventable one.
Well, yeah, what even happens? Like, the woman and her daughter show up to, like, see the body of the husband who was killed by a skeleton in the basement. The daughter's waiting outside, and the mother goes in. She looks up off camera and screams, and then the daughter comes in, and she's just lying on the floor while, like, a big jar of acid, like, teeters on top of a shelf and falls over and spills onto her face for, like, 3 minutes. So the effect is awesome. Yeah, it's so fun, but, like, what happened to her?
Why is there acid on the top shelf just hanging out?
Maybe I misread the scene, but actually that kill made the most sense to me. Interesting.
Like, she's standing over the body of her husband, who does come back as a zombie later. It would make sense for, like, him to come back and kill her, but she looks up off screen at something.
I thought she was like turning up and fainting. I thought she was like looking at him and like she saw him move or something.
Narratively, it made sense to me. It's the fact that they had a big jar of acid on the top shelf just hanging out.
But like I thought it's well enough tracked.
What knocked it over?
Her like let me from the top like explain like what I thought happened, and I thought it was really clear. We see like maybe her husband move or another zombie or something, and she screams and she falls backwards and faints, hitting the cabinet there, knocking over the jar and the acid spilling onto her face. And she's already passed out, and so like she's like unconscious, and it's just melting her face off, which horrified me.
Except everything that you've described, none of it except for the acid part happens on camera.
Well, no, like it's off camera, like it's implied, like, or at least I thought, like it's implied. She screams, the girl comes in, she's on the ground. Like the thing that was sitting on the shelf, her head is like against the shelf. Like it was like right back there. Like she hits the shelf and it knocks the thing over. Like it seems like a Rube Goldberg series of events, and we see the aftermath, which is I think the horrifying part.
Well, that's the part that matters.
Yeah.
The fact that we're nitpicking over it is not even the point. It's because everything goes to serve the fact that they built like a paper mache like person's head and dumped a bunch of acid on it. And we get to watch it.
And her
melt
daughter
for, like,
comes
30
in and
minutes.
like watches the whole thing, and like seeing like in the same room, like walking to this room where your mother just fainted, and like seeing her die, like seeing her face be melted, like in the worst way possible, right?
Yeah.
Like unconscious, just have her face melted off. Like in the same room, like seeing your dead father's corpse for the first time, like. I was really haunted and traumatized by that scene. Like, I thought it was like, I mean, not earnestly, but like, I think it depicted like that. Like her expression, like seeing this all happen is like really alarming. I was pretty like legitimately chilled by that scene, which I think is impressive considering like how campy and cartoony this movie is, that like it still was able to affect me like that.
There's a few scenes like that where it really rides the line pretty beautifully between being kind of funny and also kind of horrifying. I think that one's a great example. I think there's some eyeball gouging stuff later on that's good examples of that as well.
It's a shame too, because like that same scene also ends with like a really campy like fade transition that like completely undercuts like all of the drama of the scene, which I think is kind of necessary like in a cartoony film like that anyway.
Yeah.
So it's
Well,
I would say that
this
the
movie-
editing of this film and other films like it is
buck wild.
is essentially very un-American.
Yeah, and it uses
it's definitely got a
liberal,
different sense of
liberal
timing.
use of punch-ins with this.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
well
like-
I mean
I love
from the
that.
era I expect nothing less. Like honestly,
I mean, that's actually like fairly American too. You've got like black exploitation films like love to use the punch in.
genuinely
let's
let's bring the punch in back.
please love it.
But it definitely adds to the campy
Yes.
silliness of it, which is balanced pretty well in this movie with some very horrifying things. Let's back up a little bit. I want to talk about Joe the Plumber, the most Italian man I have ever seen on screen.
Yeah, we see him pull up in his truck. It's like he's supposed to be like a kind of Louisiana hillbilly, but it's like, nah, man, that dude's Italian. That swarthy motherfucker
like-
is Italian.
People with Italian or Greek ancestry can like live in the South and have Southern accents. It's clearly not the case here, though. Like this guy is it's he's lip synced as fuck, and it's pretty funny. Like Giuseppe like walks up.
We're back. We brought it back around. Giuseppe's back. Buca di Beppo.
Poor Giuseppe. Anyway, Giuseppe shows up and then says, "Hi, y'all. I'm the plumber." It's pretty great. It's pretty funny.
Holds a lighter up to his cigarette, but doesn't actually light it, and then pretends that he's smoking it. It's clearly unlit.
Yeah, well, he's one of the early, bits of practical effects. He falls off the ladder, gets hurt, and...
No, that's somebody else. That's one of the people who's painting the house.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
He
yeah.
turns and sees like the blind woman in the window and gets startled and falls off. And then they call Joe after that. Joe's the one who goes into the flooded basement and finds like the secret tunnel from back
that's right.
in the 30s
The goo
or
skeleton gets him.
he gets his eyes ripped out by a spooky scary skeleton.
Yeah, which is the first eye gouging
Yes.
in the movie, and I think the effect is incredibly done. You see
looks
like
great.
the eyeball fully come out.
Man, that's what's so funny is like this film has such great attention to detail in respect to like the practical effects, and then it misses things like the guy lighting his cigarette. It's so inconsistent. I love it.
You see where their focus really was.
Yeah.
It's like this is, as Ben said, it's not so much interested in telling a compelling story, because that it does not. But it is interested in doing some really fun, wild, practical gore effects. That's all it really cares about.
And yeah, it's like you said, the story is very simplistic. It's essentially
Honestly,
it's like a paranormal TV show episode of plot, really. Like it's and a simple one at that. It's just padded out by like tons of great gore and kills.
I think you could pretty much like remove all of the like kill sequences and just piece them together in a montage, like a 20-minute montage, and you get really everything you need to out of this film.
Yeah.
And
I will say-
that being said, like, I do like this film and recommend people watch it.
Yeah.
But you need to know what you're watching it for.
And
Characters and story are not.
On the flip side, I would say there are some very effective pieces of narrative in this movie. I think of, for example, the painting that's introduced early in the movie that is
good.
quite well done and quite horrifying, and how that is, followed up on later in the movie. I don't want to jump into spoilers just yet, but
No, we can mention that like the first scene in the film is like a flashback to like the 20s or 30s when there's like an artist staying at the hotel who is painting these kind of like hellscape paintings, and has this book, this grimoire, the Book of Ebon, that has the rituals to open the gates of hell or whatever. But yeah, his painting is still lying around the hotel.
The magic painting,
and it bleeds at one point, which is cool. I love a bleeding painting.
Yeah, man. Like the magic painting, like is one of my favorite like thematic narrative things you can do. There's a more academic way of putting it, but everything from how Midsummer like foreshadows so much of like its narrative through like the fun like illustrations to other films with like the magic portals through paintings and such.
I love
Dark Souls.
love
like
art.
initially ends with like a magic painting.
I love art in horror. Aside from our Candyman review from last week, I just like reread Apartment 16 by Adam Neville, which is a fucking very awesome, good horror story that is all centered around
an artist painting in the
evil
void.
Artist, yeah. And I love that shit. Honestly, I wish this movie did a little bit more of that. I wish we got some more paintings. I would have liked to see like some paintings that like the one painting we do continue to see like does foreshadow the end of the film, but I think it would have been cool if they'd found more paintings that like maybe foreshadow some of the kills, like a painting of somebody getting eaten by spiders or like with their head dissolving in acid or something like that.
I agree. That would have been really fun. Can we talk about the spider scene?
Yeah, let's talk about the spider scene. How did you like that, Cleveland?
Yeah.
As our resident arachnophobe.
So the spiders in question were tarantulas, of course, because they're I think the easiest big spiders you can get a hold of. They're also like relatively docile too, like standard like house pet style tarantulas.
But they're big and they're hairy, and people who don't like spiders are scared of that.
Let's be real too. Like when I say house pet, I'm putting big air quotes around that. Though I have had multiple friends in the past with pet tarantulas.
Couldn't be me.
Nope.
Not me.
Well, I told him I understand that tarantulas molt every so often and leave behind a perfect replica shell of their body that it really looks exactly like the damn thing. Like they just leave behind this perfect shell of a tarantula. And I told them if they ever prank me with it, I'd kill their real spider. I'm not about animal cruelty, but like you fucking prank me with that, and I'll kill your pet. Like
I'll
don't
shoot your spider with a gun.
And then turn it on you. Like don't fuck with me like that. I won't have it.
Well, how did
and don't prank me with your pet. I'll accidentally kill it, and I don't want that.
How did the scene strike you? Because it's pretty lengthy, like most of the kill sequences, and it features several real life tarantulas crawling around.
As I've grown up, and I stopped threatening my friends' pets, and I grew as an adult. I got to know like spiders a little bit better. I try to do the thing, where I expose myself to it, thinking that'll help or whatnot, but at the end of the day, like there's not really a whole lot you could do about it. But for me, it's particularly spiders' faces and tarantulas. You have to get like really, really, really up close on them to like make out many distinctive features. For me, it's wolf spiders, man. Like and specifically their
tarantulas
faces.
have pretty small eyes. As spiders,
it's like a tiny cluster on the top of their head. It's not a big deal. Like they have big fangs.
I will say, like there's in this scene there is a lot of like macro photography. Like they do get pretty close up on those tarantulas.
And when that happens, it like kind of eased me out a little bit, if that's a word. But nothing in particular like really like had my like skin like super crawling. I mean, I don't want one on me, but tarantulas aren't that bad. Like I might have an initial.
They're pretty docile and they're very slow. And I think that
until they go to like catch something.
Yeah, I think
it's like a blip. You can't
I think
see
the
them
two
move. It's
big
really cool.
things that cut the scene, even though some of it is very horrifying, the two big things that cut it are it's obvious that they only had the budget for a couple of real
like
spiders.
2 or 3 real spiders.
And so they use a lot of fake ones in the background, and it's
with no-
very clear that they're fake.
No articulation.
Yeah.
It's like someone like with it like on the end of a stick, because you only like see the front half of those like in the distance, like just kind of like wiggling them left to right as they move
It's the
forward.
kind of thing where it's like
a children's
obviously-
like shadow puppet.
It's very
play.
obviously like 2 pieces: the front half of the body with the front 4 legs, the back half of the body with the back 4 legs, and to walk it, it's just the front piece like moves side to side. Like it has no sort of articulation to speak of whatsoever. And of course they use those for the kill shots because they're not going to coax a real life tarantula to actually like rip out somebody's tongue because real life tarantulas aren't interested in that.
Yeah. Well, and also the Foley in the scene is done in a way that makes them sound like rusty doors or
Yeah,
something.
they're kind of squeaking,
Yeah.
which I thought I think is funny. It's like, spiders don't do that.
Yeah, you could almost like put like a baritone or a tuba bit behind it, you know, as they're like crawling up.
Well, and it doesn't help that once again, like every kill in this movie, the person who's being killed just allows it to happen to them. They're just like lying on the ground as these some real and some fake spiders crawl on them very, very slowly. And it's like, I get it, but they're like, at least have them thrash around a little bit. I guess they're trying not to hurt the spiders, but
yeah, they can't. Well, they're not trying. They're also not trying to get bit by them.
that's true.
Like that's the only way you can really do it. But
I mean, do it with the fake spiders or whatever. But yeah, it's like they just lie there and let these like spiders crawl on them and then like pull pieces of their face off. The shot where like the one goes into his mouth and pulls out his tongue is pretty cool. Because it's like, I guess the way they did is they like built like half of a human head with like some dentures and like a fake tongue in there and shot it from the side and then had the spider go in and like pinch the tongue out. It looks pretty good though.
Yeah, it's a really cool shot.
The spider does not look good.
no, there's a big problem with the spiders, right? So again, like in my attempt to get over my fear, I did a lot of research on it, which just made things worse, really. But
I'm just imagining you every time you pull up another page, you scream a little bit.
so, well, my friends with pet tarantulas also like helped educate me a little bit. Again, in an attempt to help, it didn't, but they tried. I do appreciate that. But anyway, so tarantulas and most spiders, like actually, their fangs are separate from like the big fat things on the front of their mouth. Like those are like kind of like it's kind of like their lips, right? Like they're called chelicera, and they part to the side, and then the fangs kind of come out beneath and under. So like from what I understand, and so like they're just kind of having like the chelicera like do the pulling. It's not. There's no like.
Well, yeah, the fake spiders have like little pincers.
They're like little plastic,
little plastic mouth pincers.
And it doesn't really it has the same silhouette as a tarantula, but like beyond that, like it's really 2D and flat.
Yeah.
Like and like it's countered by like this incredibly like realistic
cute,
looking like
frankly.
human gore. No, I agree. Like realistic human gore, but then like the creature itself is like a plastic toy.
My favorite thing about it is during that scene, they keep cutting to what is supposed to be presented as like the POV of the person with like a tarantula on their face. But what it obviously is a tarantula on a sheet of glass that they shot from beneath. And it's like they just keep cutting back to that, like, while the tarantulas are, like, ripping his tongue out. Like, it's like, it just looks like he's lying under a glass top coffee table that has a spider on top of it. Like, it does the effect of it, like, it's supposed to be, oh, it's on his face. Like, they're too far back. It doesn't come across at all.
See,
I find it, like, I feel like a lot of what we're saying sounds like we're ragging on the film. All of this stuff I find incredibly charming.
Yeah, I love it.
There's two lenses we were looking at this through, essentially. There's the lens of, like, don't change anything. It's hilarious. It's delightful. But also, if we were to
Here's
try
how
and
you
do it
want
legitimately,
if you want to do it better.
right? But I mean, don't change the scene. We're not script doctoring it. But if you were like to do it that way, first off, you'd have like one of the spiders, like, I don't know, it's already like dumb nonsense fantasy. So like have one of the spiders like do like a poison gas thing on him or something, and like
acid in his face or something. Yeah.
Well, we already had the acid in the face. I'm just saying like knockout gas so that he's paralyzed and can't move, and that way like he falls to the ground,
or
gets the
like
acid in his face.
He's doing his work and like a spider comes up and like bites him on the ankle, and then he becomes paralyzed.
That's even better, right?
Yeah.
Because so like there's like a neurotoxin or something. So like he falls over.
That's how real spiders do.
Exactly. Like it's already how spiders work. It's great. And then you just have it be like two spiders. Like again, so glad this movie has the fake spiders in. But if you're trying to do
the fake spiders are really cute. They're like spirit Halloween, like the kind of shit that you put in your front lawn around Halloween.
See, and I think why it works for me in this movie is, once again, it hits that perfect balance of silly and campy and fun with like legitimately chilling, horrifying practicals.
Yeah.
Like the actual sequence of the dude's tongue being ripped out is horrifying.
It looks great. Yeah,
but
it looks very
they hit
realistic.
such a perfect tone with this movie where it's like, it's still fun.
Yeah, it's absolutely constantly fun. Since we're pretty much just talking about sequences, the next sequence that I want to talk about is when the blind girl gets killed, because that's another, I think, really funny one.
Cleveland, you were really on edge because you didn't want them to kill the dog. I remember.
It subverted the expectation.
Mad. Yeah, I was getting a little hot because it was setting it up to do like the dog kill, because like, you know, again, like this era and genre loves to fucking do that.
I mean, horror loves to kill animals.
I know, and like it usually, like, for me, it feels cheap. Like, it's like they know what they're doing. It often strikes me as a cop out in some cases. Plenty of exceptions, but
they didn't do that in this case.
No, it was awesome. They played me exactly how they wanted to.
Yeah,
and I was set up. I was like, oh my god, if these fuckers killed the dog, I'm gonna be so mad.
Well, right, they introduce a bunch of zombies and
into the room. Yeah, she's like cowered in the corner.
She's blind in the corner and hears all these figures, and she of course
sets her seeing eye dog
sicks
on
the dog on them.
Yeah,
get him, Dickie.
Yeah, and I'm
dog
like, oh fuck no, the zombies are gonna eat the dog. I'm gonna be pissed, because like the tone is definitely setting us up for another kill scene. Like someone's gonna die here. It's not gonna be the zombies. But sure enough, it does kill one of the zombies, and it comes back to her.
Well, they play it so perfectly, because she sicks the dog, and you know, you hear some rumblings in the background, and then you get silence, and you think, oh shit,
or off.
The dog is definitely dead.
I was mad, yeah.
And then the dog runs back.
It runs back, and he's got like like he has like a gore effect on his head, but it's so clearly like a happy dog that like just has like they put some like paper mache on his head or whatever, that like it's not.
They put some red jello on his head.
It's not at all like anger inducing or traumatizing. Like that immediately brought me around, because I was just like, oh, what a happy dog, and he's just got like some practicals on his head. Very funny.
What I love about it is like you can't quite tell if it's supposed to be like the zombie's guts that he's gotten on him, or if like the zombie hurt the zombie got the dog. But then, you know, it comes back, and she thinks she's safe, and then Dickie, the dog, rips her throat out.
Yeah, because it's a zombie dog.
And bites her ear off, too. Like, it's once again pretty prolonged, but, like, really great effects. Like, it is fairly obviously just like a dog muzzle that somebody has their hand in,
but it's
like
moving so fast,
and it's just like biting and like pulling stuff off of her. But it looks really good. The reason that scene is funny to me before the actual kill happens is because the zombies show up in the house and they do nothing. Much like the zombies in the rest of the movie, they're literally just standing there, and we get a lot of like cool shots of like their faces, and like the practicals look good, but they don't move to attack her at all, and she's just like in the corner for like 2 minutes screaming like, no, you can't, don't touch me, get back, I don't want to go back, get away, no, and it'll do like a wide shot, and all the zombies are just standing there.
And
they're not even like slowly like stepping towards her.
They're not even like advancing.
They're just hanging out.
Yeah.
And like
they're just vibing.
You know, the first time she said it, I was kind of wowed. I was like, oh, she doesn't want to go back? oh, cool, there's like some neat lore there, like that's fun. But then she says it about like
mysterious character,
yeah, but then she says it like 4 more times.
Yeah.
Like, and
more than 4.
Yeah.
I guess she does go back. We don't really see anything come of it after she gets killed, but I guess she goes back.
Yeah.
She also escaped.
Do we see her return as a Zombo?
No.
Missed opportunity.
What I really appreciate about the zombies in this movie is more than most movies, they feel like legitimately undead to the point where like
Rotting corpses.
Yeah, rotting corpses that like truly don't have any will or abilities or anything. Like you see
they're the sleepiest zombies I've ever seen.
Yeah, there's a point where, you know, later in the movie our main characters are running away from it and they hide out in a room and you see them on the outside of the room just bumping into the door, not pushing it, not, you know, using their physical ability in any way, just, you know, running into it basically.
So part of me loves that, right?
I love it. Yeah, I absolutely love
also,
it.
Also, like unironically loves it too, because again, like what is the sleepiest sleep but eternal death, right? Like or the eternal sleep, which is death. So like sleepy zombies make sense. They're undead. They're puppets. You know, they're just corpses that are being puppeted around. They have no will anymore.
I just don't think they're very scary.
No,
because like there's lots of slow zombies. Like hell, man. Like Romero.
Of course,
Romero did, like, it makes great scary slow zombies. But the thing about these zombies is like, other than the first one at the beginning that gouges like Joe the plumber's eyes out, like none of the zombies ever like even try to attack anybody in this movie. Like in the dog scene, they're just standing there. Later, when the doctor and Liza are at the hospital, like there's a bunch of zombies walking around, but they don't even like raise their arms to attack them. They're literally just like very slowly shambling in their general direction as he continues to forget that headshots kill them and shoots them in the gut from point blank range over and over again.
See, yeah, I love on paper the idea, and I'm trying to think if I've seen a film do it, but much like tarantulas in that sense, like I'd love to see like a slow moving zombie that can just occasionally move very fast.
It moves slow until
zombie
you like
films
come into range and it lashes out and grabs you.
Exactly, and like I think that's a cool idea, and we do see like some Romero films do something close to that. You'll have like a character round like often it's when a character rounds a corner or just doesn't see the zombie behind them that it like, you know, it gives them the old bite.
That's why zombies are scary, as we've talked about millions of times. Like they don't need to be fast, it's just that there's so many of them and they keep coming. They don't tire. It's like, yeah, you can outrun them, but for how long? You know, that's the scary thing about zombies. But in this movie, like, the zombies don't even do anything. They just kind of shuffle in your general direction. And, like, even if you run into them, they still give you ample time to put 4 shots into their gut before you finally remember that a headshot will kill them and shoot them in the head, and then do the same thing to the zombie standing right next to him, shoot him in the stomach a few times before remembering the headshot. It's time to talk about the Doctor. I think he's the most useless character in this entire movie, but is weirdly kind of presented as, like, the hero. This is alleged, but considering the time period, I wouldn't be surprised if, like, he was inserted because they needed somebody to use a gun at the end, and they were like, oh, the women, they cannot use the guns! We need to have a man to use the guns! So they inserted this guy who looks a lot like the Italian Jack Nicholson, so I'm gonna call him Giacomo Nicholson for the rest of this episode.
Oh, good. Nicleone.
Giacomo Nicholson son Diamo.
Nicleone.
Giacomo Nicola. He's a doctor at the hospital where they bring, like, Joe the plumber and, like, the old, like, artist's bones that they find, but he doesn't, like, do any sort of, like, investigation on them. Like, we never have a scene of, like, him doing an autopsy and being like, whoa, the brain of this 60-year-old corpse is surprisingly fresh or whatever. But we do see him pull up his car bar next to the protagonist at one point in the movie, honk his horn at her, and then the next scene is them in a bar getting a drink. Which is
It's the Italian way.
It's the Italian way. And, like, this movie, they did... Even though it's an Italian production, like, they obviously did shoot in Louisiana. Like, the in-town stuff is, like, pretty clearly New Orleans. And I love that he's, like, a couple of times she'll be like, oh, yeah, I have such and such helping me with the hotel. She has Martha and Arthur, as they constantly say in the movie. And he's like, Martha and Arthur, I've never heard of them. And I know everybody around here. And then he does that again later with the blind lady. She's like, oh yeah, the blind girl, Emily or whatever, she lives at the old house at the crossroads. And he's like, a blind girl named Emily? I don't know her, and I know everyone around here. And the old house at the crossroads? Nobody lives there. It's like we see the house, it's just like in New Orleans. It's like, what crossroads? It's a fucking city. Every road that crosses another road is a crossroads.
That's called, it was different in their head when they wrote the script, and then they saw the reality and just said fuck it and went with it anyway, which is beautiful.
Giacomo knows every single person in New Orleans because he's a doctor. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't know about a blind girl who lives at the crossroads, and he doesn't know about Martha and Arthur either.
As it turns out, there's a lot of things he doesn't know.
Yeah, like how to kill zombies.
Or how to load a gun. Let's talk about that, yeah.
It's time.
I'm itching.
This is one of those moments where I feel like I was touched by divine providence to spot this.
I can't contest that.
Because this is like what we stumbled upon here is maybe one of the best things I've ever seen in a film in my life. And I'd say among us, we have seen literally thousands of films.
Amogus.
Yes.
And there's just this moment in the hospital scene when they're trying to get away from the zombies where they get into the elevator, and as the elevator is closing, I noticed something. And I'm like, wait, we need to run this back because surely there's no way what I just saw is real.
Sure enough, it was.
But sure enough, we ran it back, and as the elevator door is closing, Giacomo Nicholson pops open the revolver like he's gonna reload it, reaches into his jacket pocket, pulls out a single bullet, and loads it backwards into the barrel of the gun. And we are not mistaken. We ran this back and we watched it. Mm-hmm. And that is absolutely what happens. Like, we did not, all three of us, we did not missee this. He takes one bullet out of his pocket and puts it backwards into the barrel of his gun.
Backwards.
As the elevator is closing. And I can't believe it. I just frankly can't believe it. Because, like, think of how many people that moment had to get past, right?
Yeah.
It had to get past the actor who himself did it. There's no way he was directed to do that. He just did it. Because I'm sure his direction was, when you get into the elevator, reload your gun. And for some reason in that moment, he thought, yeah, I'm going to put a bullet into the barrel. That's how I reload a gun, because it's 1776. So first it had to get past him. Second, it had to get past Fulci himself, who was directing the scene and surely saw it. Third, it had to get past the cameraman who was shooting. Maybe it was Fulci. I think probably not. But fourth, and most egregiously, is that it got past the editor. Because the editor very easily could have trimmed 1 single second off of that shot. Would have been like, oh shit, he just put a bullet into the barrel.
He loaded the gun wrong.
Yeah. Oh shit, he loaded the gun, he put the bullet in the barrel backwards. Mm-hmm. Like, and just trim, just a few additional frames off the shot, and that would be it. But it snuck past all of those people and made it into this movie, and I got lucky enough to catch it.
And like, how many other people have missed it too? Because like, it's not like front in the frame. Like it's a little far back. Like it's easy enough to miss.
It's not the focal point of the shot. It's not what you're supposed to be looking at. So in that regard, like, I can see how it would slip past, but like when you spot it,
Oh my god, you can
You
never.
can't unsee
it's
it.
insane.
Yeah.
It is absolutely insane. Like, this man.
Well, what's funny too is like he empties the cartridge. He knows where the bullets go.
That's the thing.
He knows where the bullets go. He empties it.
Pops open the cylinder
Yeah.
of the revolver and dumps out the empty casings. Like, he does that and then takes one bullet and puts it backwards into the barrel of the gun.
How the fuck? How do you get it that wrong? And oh my god, I don't get it. I don't get it at all.
Like, I would understand. Well, because like they had to reset the scene after that, right? Like after the elevator door closed. Maybe it was the last take. Whatever, but there's no way that actor, like, if he's caught up in the heat of the moment, he's acting, whatever, he just does something and doesn't realize it. But there's no way that right after that, when they said cut and had to reset the scene, he was like, man, I don't know what I was thinking. I just loaded a bullet into the barrel of the gun backwards. Like, please make sure that doesn't make it into the movie. But it did!
What a gift. You know, like maybe the editor did see it and they were just like pissed off about something.
They're like, oh, fuck you, Giacomo
Fuck you.
Nicholson, you sleeping with my wife.
I make you look like a fool.
I make you look like a stupid idiot.
Idiota.
Idiota. Pezzo di merda.
That's the reality issues.
I'm so glad it did make it into the film.
Yes.
Because that was a truly emotionally impactful moment for me because I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it when I saw it the first time, and then when we ran it back again, and what I thought I saw was confirmed was just like,
yeah, because like you can see things like that from time to time. Anyone can, right? Like it's like, wait, did he do that wrong? No,
like,
surely
like,
not.
oh, surely,
and it's like, all right, run it back.
not.
We need to know. And
surely not.
And when it was, oh, what a gift! What a gift! What a manna from heaven, man! What a special thing.
Yeah, so powerful.
Mm-hmm. Like, thank you, Sarah, for recommending this movie. Like, I needed that laugh.
Well, that's the thing, is like, this is not my first time seeing this movie,
yeah,
but it was my first time catching that.
Yeah.
And Sarah, as you're listening right now, because I know you are, I know you've seen this movie many times. Had you ever noticed that? Did you ever notice that he loaded the bullet in backwards?
Because again, like, the scene cuts right after. It's in the background. It's not the focus. Like, I could see it, but like, who else has seen this? You know, like in this movie.
I feel like I've stumbled upon like the cinematic gaff Holy Grail or the Ark of the Covenant or something.
Yeah, dude.
Like,
is this like a known thing in this movie? Like,
I've never.
I almost want to watch more giallo and see if there's more cases of people doing this. If this is just like
Maybe
a
it's an
weird
Italian
cultural
thing.
thing.
Maybe it's a weird Italian thing.
No, but
Maybe...
it's not though. It's not because like
spaghetti westerns. All they use is revolvers.
Because spaghetti westerns. Because World War II. Because like Italian pistols load from the bottom usually. No,
well, that's the thing. Italians don't know about revolvers except for the ones who know about cowboys.
But they do. Like, revolvers aren't uncommon. Like
no,
at
like
that
you
time.
said, their guns load from the bottom. They're magazine based.
Yeah, these are like the children of World War II.
They've never seen a revolver before. They put a fake revolver in Giacomo Nicholson's hand, and he said, "What am I supposed to do with this?"
Yeah, man. Just goofy shit. Just cut beforehand or something, you know? Like,
that's the thing.
It's so
the
easy.
editor must have left it on purpose. And you know what, frankly,
No.
the more I talk,
think about it. They're that far into it. They're probably sleep deprived. It's the kind of thing you can miss.
the more I talk about it, though, like, that's the thing. I don't know if the editor didn't notice that. Because, like, especially because the cut happened right after, like, when you're editing video, like, the last couple of frames, like, where you're making the cut, you're very honed in on it. Like, that's the point. Yeah. To know when to make the cut.
No, see, he was coming up on his espresso break, and, you know, he needed a cigarette, and...
It is time for my cigarette.
Yeah.
I think...
You can't smoke in the editing room, so...
I mean, this was Italy in the 1980s. You absolutely could smoke in the
I mean, you
editing
could,
room.
but ill-advised, right? Like, film is flammable, like...
lots of things are ill-advised.
Yeah.
The Italians have done lots of ill-advised things.
Yeah. So the Americans,
making
yeah.
this movie is not one of them, though. But I think that the more I talk about this, the more I think that the editor did notice it and said, oh man, there's no way that I can't leave this in.
Yeah.
Like, the
This
editor
is just
seriously
too
goes,
funny.
Because I probably would.
Yeah.
well, that's the thing. Like, that's what brings me around, because if I was in the editor's shoes, I would absolutely leave it in.
Yeah.
I would notice that and be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe it."
Yeah. Well, to use like a modern expression, this is not a bug; it's a feature.
Yeah, it is a feature. I mean, we've been talking about it for I feel like nigh 10 minutes by now.
Deserved. I was expecting this to be a pretty decent, take a decent amount of our time slot.
It's a central important part of the
It is. It is now.
because the story is not.
Yeah.
But the way that this man tried to reload his gun is very important. I mean, I just feel like it's icing on the cake for like how incompetent he is at killing the zombies for like the whole 10 minutes of the movie prior to this moment.
Yeah.
Because, like, over and over and over again, like, he pumps bullets into the stomachs of the zombies and then finally realizes to shoot them in the head. And then he just does it over and over again.
Like he's wandering around the corridors and he shoots the zombies a couple times in the stomach. And, like, they just keep coming. And then he shoots one in the head and it falls. And then he repeats this process.
Multiple
And then,
times.
yeah, he repeats it again. Like when the boss one, like the dad, who's like super decayed at this point, is like coming after them or whatever. Like he just fucking keeps unloading into its stomach. And this is after we have collectively learned this lesson multiple times, right?
Yes.
We have seen him learn this lesson. He has learned this lesson, and he just keeps fucking emptying shots into its stomach.
That being
Like,
said, all those shots that he keeps wasting on the zombies
Look great.
They're all squibs.
which is. I mean,
They're all
let's be real.
squibs.
That's why.
That's why they did
We
it.
have so many squibs. We gotta use the squibs. But this and not, they make sense. So why would I do this? We need to do the squibs.
We bought all of the squibs. We are not going to waste the money on the squibs.
What do you know? You load the gun backwards.
We saw you. You loaded the gun backwards. We keep it in the film.
I think that might be the reason. He tried to point something out, and they were just...
We'll make him look like a fool.
Yeah, we're just
Idiota.
leaving it in to spite
We
him.
leave it in. You fucking faccianculo.
Oh, man.
I want to talk about the ending a little
Let's
bit
do it.
with the
Yeah.
painting.
It's time.
Well, they introduced the painting early on, and it's quite a striking painting.
Very Goya-esque. Really
yeah.
thick brush strokes.
Yeah, it's like a hellscape, but not like your typical like fire and brimstone hellscape. Like it's kind of like just like a vast grayscale sort of desert with like statues or like petrified people. You can't really tell, sort of like lying in the dirt. Everyone's getting the Ozymandias treatment.
Very, is it Zlat Beksinski?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
very
empty
haunting,
waste.
hellish. At the end of the movie, it all comes full circle because our main characters end up in the painting.
Yes. Well, they're at the hospital and they come down the stairs and find themselves in the basement of the hotel.
Super cool.
How did they get there? And then like go to where they found the body of the artist earlier. Then all of a sudden, sort of like find themselves in
Well,
the
there's
painting.
like a cloud of mist, and the zombies are behind them, and the only way they can go is through the cloud of mist, and they traverse it, and they go from the sewer to this really fucking awesome matte painting interior of the painting, and it's fun
I don't
because
think
they
it was
only
a matte
have.
painting. I think it was a set.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure they built that set, and then it sort of like fades off into darkness and mist. But like it's got like the sort of like petrified human figures lying on the ground.
Right.
And I found it really chilling and horrifying. It's like a great representation.
Yeah.
of,
But I think
like,
but there is like a
hell.
matte painting like off the set. Like it is like they're on the set like in the foreground of the bodies. Maybe they're I don't know. I was
Maybe
pretty caught
some
up in
of
the
it is
moment.
matte painting, but I think what it
Yeah.
looked like to me is it looked like a set that then they turn the lights off on the edges of it, so it sort of just like goes out into darkness.
Yeah.
Because like once they like find themselves in this this locale, they like keep trying to turn around and like run back, but when they turn around, it's just the exact same thing, like literally the exact same thing. And then they sort of just walk into the fog and disappear, and they went to hell. I can't say I particularly care about these characters.
Man, but the effect is so good.
But the set is cool.
I do like that they didn't have like enough space to like flesh it out like 360 degrees fully. So like
it's very two-dimensional.
But what they do is they have them turn and see the landscape, and then they turn again and they see the same one.
Yeah.
And they sort of imply that like it's the same thing in all directions.
Yes.
So yeah, it's pretty spooky, but it is also kind of cheap. Like how they like look in a different direction. It's like the exact same image. It's not like the same thing in all directions. It's like the exact same thing, like in all directions.
It's a physical representation of the painting that we've seen,
which is cool because like it is like the painting
yeah.
is two-dimensional. So that idea is kind of neat that everywhere they look, they see the same. And also they go blind.
It reminded me. Oh yes, of course.
Which is cool foreshadowing because, it was cool that the scene where the blind woman dies, like that's foreshadowing, and the girl as well going blind.
She keeps
The blindness
saying,
has to do
she
with
keeps
this.
saying, I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back.
So clearly she was like trapped in the painting at some point.
She has
or
been
something.
released from hell, just like all of these other bodies, but she did a naughty and she tried to warn the protagonist about like the hotel, so the dead came back and took her back to hell.
Super cool. I do love the contacts that they're wearing. Most blindness
cool.
in films is depicted as like totally milky eyes. But here, like they do these really cool like green like pupils, like where the eyes like they still have the whites of the eyes and the pupil
it's like
the iris. Sorry, the iris is there. There's no pupil.
It's like pearlescent, and it's got like kind of like cracks in it almost.
Yeah,
like
they're
sort of lightning bolt shapes.
really cool. Really cool looking.
Yeah.
I'm sure literally impossible to see it.
Yeah, I'm sure probably like kind of painful too.
Probably uncomfortable, yeah. But yeah, it's a cool effect. And it happens to the protagonists at the end once they've made it to hell. That last scene reminded me a lot of Jigoku.
Yeah.
Same kind of like minimalist, like misty hellscape. Except of course, like in that movie, that's like the whole second half of the film instead of just the last scene.
Which rules? Yeah, like
that movie was cool. Yeah,
it was cool.
Well, one last thing I want to talk about before we jump into ratings or anything like that is the music. This is one of my favorite scores of all time. I think the music in this by Fabio Frizzi is really incredible. It's like a perfect like horror synth score. Mm-hmm. I actually learned recently that a couple years ago Fabio Frizzi was doing a US tour where he's playing along to the movie.
Cool.
And I really wish I would have seen it because that sounds incredible.
Yeah.
How much notoriety does this film have?
It's probably Fulci's best known film other than Zombie 2.
I would probably say it's probably one of the top 5 most famous giallo movies.
Yeah, I think so. That sounds right.
Makes sense.
I mean, giallo
fairly
is,
deserved again with the practicals.
I think giallo, in terms of like the film community at large, is a somewhat obscure genre. But within giallo, this is definitely one of the best known.
One last thing that was interesting to me is that it's set in Louisiana, and they're pulling zombies out of hell, right?
Yeah.
But there's no like voodoo, Vodun, Haitian, anything really. It's just satanic zombies in Louisiana, which I thought was interesting.
What's so funny about that to me is Zombie 2 takes a departure from Dawn of the Dead and brings in some of that voodoo zombie aspects in terms of, the island setting.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a missed opportunity because, like, that is literally the origin of the zombie mythos and the word zombie. Mm-hmm. Is like it is like an explicitly like voodoo thing, and one of the earliest zombie films ever, I Walked with a Zombie, which came out in the late 30s, early 40s, I think. It's pretty good. Is like using that original zombie folklore.
I mean, considering this movie came out like right after Zombie 2, I almost bet Fulci wanted to do something different in terms of zombies.
It does. I agree with Cleveland, though. It does seem weird considering the setting.
Yeah.
In Louisiana, around New Orleans and stuff, where there is like a large Haitian community, so like that would be part of the local folklore. Anywho, y'all ready to rate?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, this is probably gonna be like a good solid 4 out of 5 for me. Lots of really great practical effects, like bare bones story, but everything is so charming. The shitty ADR, the cheap little spider effects, everybody just letting themselves get killed. Like, it's all just such a fantastic showcase for like the really good gory practical effects. I like this movie a lot. Yeah, 4 out of 5.
For me, I love this movie. I think it's maybe my favorite giallo movie. I think this soundtrack is so perfect. All the practical effects are so awesome and so charming and fun. I think, again, this movie hits a perfect balance between being horrifyingly gruesome and really campy and funny. To me, this is a perfect movie of its kind, so I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5.
Oh, yeah. Nice. I had a really wonderful time with it, for all the same reasons. I think when it's when it's not quality, it's charming, and when it's quality, it's fucking awesome. Like, again, the practical effects are great, and again, the score really did it for me too, because again, like, it has like kind of Western vibes. So yeah, there were so many great things with this film, but for me, like, there is so much of it is like endearing charm, or I guess, I don't know, for whatever reason, for me it hit about a 4. Like when it comes to like my enjoyment of watching it the first time. And maybe that might change over time, as I always say. But yeah, I would say yeah. I'm right at a 4 on it. I really enjoyed it. It was solid.
All right, well, that gives The Beyond an average of 4.3 out of 5 pods. If we've got listeners who have Shudder, it is on Shudder. And if you're looking for a good, fun, campy zombie movie that you don't have to pay super close attention to, but there's lots to enjoy, definitely hit this one up. I think you won't be disappointed. Thanks again, Sarah, for picking this one for us. It was a good time. Mm-hmm. Next week, we're back to a new film,
a new giallo in quotes.
Big quotes. It's James Wan is back, baby. He found another synonym for Insidious, and we're gonna be watching his newest film,
Disney's Maleficent.
Disney's Malignant. Yeah, we'll talk about this more after we see the movie, of course, but for several months now, there has been hype around, James Wan's next film is going to be a giallo film. It's like, oh, wow, what's this? And based on the trailer, it looks like he just did Insidious again.
It looks nothing like a giallo film.
Looks nothing like...
There's something about the aesthetic of it, though, that, like, it's not giallo, but I do find appealing.
There's a killer.
In the trailer.
There's a killer who has black gloves, which in that regard, I guess, is giallo.
I like the simplicity.
But he's also a ghost, so immediately it's not giallo.
Very strange.
I don't know. There were a lot of things like about it, like in the trailer, where it seemed like kind of like pulled back a little bit, especially like compared to Insidious, like, which has like it's bright colors, and again more giallo, like bright colors and like weird monsters and things. The simplicity, of like just like a ghost like in black is neat, and I do like the font. I like how the font kind of grows. It's a cool effect.
Sure.
And I don't know, like the style of the trailer actually has me intrigued, which is interesting because I generally hate those movies. Sure. So I'm going in with a weird perspective.
I'm expecting this to just be Insidious all over again.
Yeah. I'd be remiss to mention on this episode that I can definitely see like the influence this movie had on Eli Roth. think about more recent giallo-esque movies. I feel like his movies have such a direct lineage in terms of like practical effects and gore.
Well, I mean, fuck, he did and now we're spiraling off into a tangent, but like, fuck, he did the fucking Green Inferno, which is basically just his version of Cannibal Holocaust.
Yeah.
So, like, Eli Roth is very obviously heavily influenced by Grindhouse and like Italian horror.
But yeah, bringing it all back, it's like I definitely see that being, labeled as giallo influenced. I don't know if Malignant is going to be anything like that. Based
off the trailer, I have a hard time seeing it. Maybe the movie will prove me wrong. We'll talk about it on our episode next week, because I do think that if you're going to throw the word giallo around, do it for good fucking reason. Don't just use that shit willy-nilly. Anyway, next week, Malignant, James Wan. Is it good? We'll see. Is it giallo? We'll also see. Anyway, it's time for a word from our sponsor, the sponsor shelf.
This episode is brought to you by Rhea Repulsa's anti-horny spray.
Oh.
Are you feeling like a Ouroboros, where you're an endless horror snake sucking your own tail?
So horny that you're self-sucking into oblivion.
Wait,
oblivion? I mean, honestly, aren't we all?
Whoa, Hornerboros.
A Hornerboros. Well, fear no more, or be horny no more, with Rita Repulsa's. Rita Repulsa sounds like a Harry Potter character.
She's from Power Rangers.
Oh, that's why. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, of course. Right, Rita.
From the original Power Rangers.
Of course, yeah, the horn hat.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and the
staff. Yeah, I'm tracking. So yeah, it was it's an old memory, an ancient memory had to be awoken like an elder god. Rita Repulsa, yeah, anti-horny spray. No, here's the thing. Her character is. I don't know if she's kind of horny for monsters, right? Like she wants the monster show. So why is she making an anti-horny spray? Our resident doctor will answer. Matisse.
So there's more monsters for her to fuck.
Oh, okay.
She's making everybody else not horny so she can bang all of the monsters.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
Too much competition.
I don't know if I wanted to see, but I do.
And now you will never unsee.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, get it or don't. Actually, yeah, I don't know. You decide.
Get it. They're giving us money to promote the product, so we use it. It's great. I use it personally, and never in my life have I been less horny.
Don't become an endless cycle of horny. Use the spray.
Break the cycle of horny. Use the spray. Yeah. Break the Hornoboros.
The horny Boris. Who's Boris?
Oh God.
Boris Johnson, Prime Minister of
No, he needs to get okay, I will buy the spray. Here, hand it over.
Get him
Boris
away from you.
Johnson just running around the street.
Nasty man.
With a massive boner crying. I can't get rid of it.
Get the absolute lad away from you. Use Rita Repulsa's anti-horny spray.
Oof.
All right, that'll bring us to the end of this week's episode. If you're still horny for us,
and why wouldn't you be?
And after that, why wouldn't you be? The best way to support the show is to head over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star rating and a review about why you like the show. It doesn't have to be much, just a couple of words.
But it is much to us. It does mean a lot. Honestly,
it does mean much to us. And really, this episode was brought to us by our patrons. Specifically our honorary Podboy patrons, Sam Simon and Sarah Morris. If you want to join the ranks of the honorary Podboys and give us films to suggestions for films to review on the podcast, we've got a big spreadsheet. It's waiting for you, and you can do that at patreon.com/podpeoplepod. There's also a couple of lower subscriber tiers to support the boys if you so choose, but fear not. None of our content is paywalled. You'll always get every episode for free. You can follow us on Twitter at PodPeoplePod and at letterboxd.com/PodPeoplePod, where you'll find a list of all the films we've talked about on the show with our average ratings and links to those reviews. You can follow me on Twitter at SomeSpookySnake.
I'm on Twitter at Mr. Sheets.
And I'm occasionally tweeting for Light Arc Studios. We put out progress on It Stares Back. Join our Discord for extra content. It's pretty rad. And yeah, you can also find my work via DreadXP. Spookware came out recently. It's super cool. Stay tuned for several other cool games coming out through DreadXP as well. It's an awesome studio. I'm happy to be making cool games for them.
All right, thank you for listening. Next week, oi, it's Malig, isn't it?